Welcome to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. I'm Allie Rose, certified clinical hypnotherapist and subconscious success coach. I help my clients stop self-sabotage and feel safe to create more wealth, worth, and wellness from within. If you find yourself stuck repeating the same unhelpful patterns in your life, health, business, or relationships, even after all the mindset work, this podcast is for you. Each week, you'll hear deep dives into the hidden beliefs shaping your life and live hypno coaching sessions where someone shifts a block in real time. Because willpower isn't the problem, your subconscious story is. And when you shift it at the root, everything else begins to change. So let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. We all carry stories from childhood, and I'm always so fascinated by how people overcome or work through those childhood stories to become the people that they are today. So today I'm going to be speaking with Greg Fearon, creator of the $1 Million Body Method. Greg is a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who helps successful women show up as the CEO of their body and business or career. Greg spent time working in the corporate world and also worked in gynecology and endocrinology in the UK Health Service. So welcome, Greg. I'm so excited to have you here with me to share a bit of your story with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share.
Yeah, so I know that we're going to dive more into how you became the creator of the $1 Million Body Method as we get more into your story. But before we dive in, can you share a bit of your background and upbringing with our listeners, where you're from, and any other important details about your life that you think might help kind of set the stage for who you are now?
Of course. So, as you said, my name is Greg Fearon. I'm currently based in Thailand, but my origin story starts in the UK, London. I'm born from two immigrant Jamaican parents, not having much money or resource growing up, and having to grow up in a world where, you know, Black people weren't always welcome in certain circles in the UK, and not having wealth and resource makes that doubly hard, right? And your parents work all the hours God sends. I have two younger sisters as well. So there were a lot of mouths to feed in that household. And I guess what happened was there's a couple of things. Jamaicans are really passionate about Westerns and Kung Fu films. It's the
Okay.
weirdest thing.
Interesting.
I know. I think it's about the overcoming oppression and getting better storyline that we love. So my mum used to leave me in front of Jackie Chan films, those old 70s films. So that's how I got kind of into martial arts and understanding how to move my body a little bit better, etc. But growing up in our household, weight was a big challenge, especially for my sisters and my mum. They've all got kind of PCOS type issues and always struggled with trying to get healthy. Okay, so they're trying to do all the diets. The Jane Fonda videos were on the TV sometimes, etc. And I carried a little bit of weight at that point as well. But then I got into sports around the age of 12, and that really ignited my passion for understanding how the body works, etc. Then I went on to college and studied biology at A level, physical ed at A level as we have it. And then at university, I went on to do a sports science degree. And after that, I went into corporate. Don't ask me how. I ended up leading people. So at one point, I was working with 300 odd people across two sites. I was leading 6 teams in that role. And then I got made redundant, left there, went to the NHS, as we call it in the UK, the National Health Service, where I was a general manager for gynecology, endocrinology, nephrology, dermatology, care of the elderly, thoracic medicine. So I've got a nice range of experience. And then on the side, I used to go out and train ladies who were stuck and didn't know how to change their bodies, etc. So I guess that's kind of led me to where I am now. That's a short story.
Yeah, wow. Well, what a like variety of experiences, right? So, but I find that I find that often that's really what makes you good at what you do is when you have this variety of experiences and you can relate to people in all sorts of different ways, right? So,
Ye-
yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely have a wide range of experiences, and sometimes I forget some of the experiences I've had and the things I picked up and learned. And sometimes I think we all forget sometimes that small interaction you could have had with someone could actually be a big game changer in another area of your life at some point, for sure. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we've all got a ton of stories that shape who we are, and you touched upon some of them. But what would you say is either the biggest story that you were told as a child about either yourself, the world, or other people, and what's possible for you?
Oh, I think being the child of immigrants, first of all, one of the big ones was that money doesn't grow on trees and money isn't easy. There's definitely a big one. Second, I had to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. Like those were the only three professions
Mhm,
that were permissible, because they would earn the right amount of money, get the right amount of status, etc.
mhm,
And I didn't want to take any of those paths. And I think sometimes I was led to, it made me feel that if I didn't do those things as I grew up and started to get into personal training, nutrition, that it wasn't quite a good enough skill set. It wasn't prestigious enough. You know, it wasn't the same level as a doctor. So therefore, how are you going to make money from that? What's, you know, you just do exercise and make people get fit. Like that's not important. And then I also know that growing up and trying to, as I started to understand like health and start to read all the magazines and just understand the body better,
mm,
trying to help my mum and my sisters to get themselves in shape was impossible
mhm.
because I'm just the brother or just the son. So I think sometimes that made me feel like I wasn't good enough, that my knowledge and my advice wasn't good enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that kind of led to a desire to be able to say, no, I can help women. I might not be able to help those who are closest, nearest, and dearest to me because of their resistance to that. But I know that I understand and I'm willing to learn so that I can help women show up and become the CEO of their body.
Yeah, so would you say then that those stories, money doesn't grow on trees or that you had to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, was your trajectory then shaped by kind of proving that you could make money by doing this thing that was outside of the confines of doctor, lawyer, accountant?
Yes, and I think the bigger driver was to be able to show that you don't have to be one of those things to be able to help people and become successful in your life, for sure. And the money part was always that people's health's important to them. We don't realize it, right? We wait until something happens and then it becomes valuable. But I wanted to show that actually you can build a career helping people with the thing that they think is easy, but is not very easy at all.
Right, right. Yeah, which is the perfect segue into obviously that those stories started to shift for you, right? And now you are the creator of the $1 million body method. And so tell me a little bit more about that transition and how you created this method.
So especially when my corporate days, I would wake up in the morning, get out at 5 o'clock, train clients, and then go into the day job, as it were. But the day job was brilliant for me in that it helped me. First of all, it gave me so much development in terms of coaching, leadership, and understanding. But what I really found out was that people do things because of what's going on in their minds.
Right, right.
Like we can give people lots of information, lots of data, nothing happens. But unless we can shift the stories in their brains, and that's when I realized, oh, hang on a minute, I can give two people the same diet, same training plan from a similar background, But what stops one person implementing is what's going on here. The beliefs, the upbringing, the stories that they carry, which is actually what this podcast is about, right? That actually shape how they show up for themselves.
Right.
Within. And that was an eye opener. I think when I did my first disciplinary, when I had to sack someone, you guys would say fire someone. And I was baffled. I was like, I'm talking to this woman. I'm saying, why are you always late? You live around the corner. There's no reason why you can't be on time.
Right.
So I took her out of the meeting and said, look, I don't want to fire you, but I need to understand what's the deeper reason as to why you hate the job. You don't want to be here. And she confided that she had a ill relative and she had to do medications and stuff, etc. And she couldn't work out how to get to work on time and do all the medication stuff. And I was like, why don't you just tell me?
Right.
The stories in her head said that, well, that wasn't important enough to be shared. She was scared to share. I said, well, okay, why don't we just adjust your shift so you start 10 minutes later? Like, it's not going to be a big deal. And she was never late again. So it's not that people do things generally to harm themselves or to not look after themselves. People are scared of the expectations and the stories that other people have about them and that they have of themselves, which stop them executing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really powerful. And obviously, like, I knew there was a reason why we connected online. I can't remember how we connected online. Mm. That is the entrepreneurial space, right? Is just like all these connections. But there's definitely always been, I feel like we've always had a synergy around the stories and the mindset work. Obviously, I know that you're working with people around their health, but you always are putting in, I love your posts. You're always putting in these things that make people think differently about health and weight loss and all of that. So I love that about you and the way that you show up. So I'm curious, what are the most common stories that you find come up when people are trying to make shifts in their health?
The biggest one is, I don't deserve to look after me. So I'd say for women, society and how the upbringing is always either you become a great parent or you do great in your career or you do both.
Hmm. Yeah.
But you don't come into that equation. There's no time for you. And for many women, and I watched my sisters grow up, right? So they were never praised for anything they did in, say, physical education. Never praised. There was no praise. If they did something well in sport or something, no praise. If they stayed up all night cramming for an exam and they passed, even just the act of staying up late, not sleeping, they would be praised.
Mm.
So that story stays with us for a long time.
Right.
So then when it comes to, should I go to the gym or should I stay and work later? Well, the brain says, well, you've always been praised for that. That's the right path,
Right.
even though your health is declining.
Right.
So I would say that's probably the biggest one, is the story of, I don't deserve to allow myself time to be rested, fed, nourished, and that if I neglect others, then I'm doing something wrong. When actually the woman is generally the the pillar of the house, right? Most households, us men know it, but we won't lie about it. Most women are the pinnacle of the house, right? We understand that if the woman is not well rested, etc., it all goes, it falls apart. We men know this. We know it, but that's, women are so pinnacle to our society, etc. But if they're not rested, well nourished, they can't perform to the level that actually they know they could.
Right. Right. I love that so much because I work with a lot of women. I work with a lot of moms. And I hear that story come up all the time. Not even, health is like a very all encompassing, but like, so I'm working with people more so on their emotional and mental health. And it's like sometimes getting someone to even take 5 minutes to journal or meditate or do anything for themselves, it's like it's completely out of the question for them. It just doesn't feel possible for them. So it's interesting that you say that that's the biggest thing that comes up in with the women that you work with.
It normally comes out as, I don't have time. So that's what they'll vocalize to us is, I don't have time. And actually what it is I don't deserve to have time for me. The way that I get past that, and I think we're going to shift to this anyway, is I help them create something called a superhero identity.
Mhm. Okay.
So in the $1 million body method, people think they're going to come to me for diet, exercise. And yeah, we're going to cover all of that because that's important. I have all of that nailed down. But what's the identity of the person who's going to be able to show up for themselves?
Mm,
Look like? And we go into very detailed imaging about who that person wants to become.
mm, yeah.
Because I firmly believe that everyone has a superhero. So I'm a big superhero geek. I love Marvel. I'm a Marvel geek. I read the comics and all that stuff. And this is partly where this came from. It's actually come from Superman. So think about it this way, right? If you're going to save the world, it's a question for you. Who would you put your money on? Yeah, this is for you. If you were going to, who would you put your money on? Clark Kent or Superman? Who would you trust to save the world?
Superman.
Right. Perfect. Is Clark Kent and Superman the same person?
Absolutely.
So why are you putting your money on Superman? Clark Kent has the same skills. But
Right.
this is exactly the point. So I show people this. I'm like, look, you even have, we used to have something called stars in their eyes where people would get off the street and then become a bit of makeup, etc. They would become whichever star and they would sing like this person. Crazy. What it shows me is that people have the ability to change their identity in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You can go from Clark Kent to Superman in a heartbeat. But if you're not close to the identity of the person you want to be, nothing's going to happen. We go back off diets, we fall off diets, etc. Because it's identity. So what I do is the first step is what we call the superhero identity method, where we go, right, who's the person you want to become? What does that look like in great detail? Like I want to know what you see in the mirror when you wake up. I want to know how you jump out of bed. I want to know how you show up at work and how energized you are. Okay, great. So now when we've nailed this really vivid picture, we obviously get them to look at it daily, twice a day, in fact, so that their brain is starting to see this all the time and the brain will go towards whatever it sees. We know this, right? So once we've got that nailed, then instantly I hear different decisions. I get messages, oh, Greg, you know what? I decided to have this meal instead of this meal because this one is closer to the person I want to be. And I haven't even set up their nutrition yet for them. We haven't even touched it. Or, Greg, I decided to have a walking meeting instead of sat at my desk because I want to feel more energized. I want to feel like this person. And it's such a powerful tool is looking at people's identities and getting them to see it and create their new ones. So for me, every woman I work with is a bodybuilder and an athlete.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's
And,
so powerful.
but we would resist it, right? The women will go, no, 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 I'm not an athlete. I'm like, you are now. You are a bodybuilder because our bodies are declining as we get older. If you go to the gym and lift some weights, you're a bodybuilder. And these instant shifts, and like, oh, I can be. Yeah. Once you start talking to yourself in that term, all of a sudden you start to just, without even having to make much effort, you start to shift how you show up for yourself, how you look after yourself, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so powerful. It's like that, you've heard the stories of, with a plane, right? If you shift the plane off its course, right, even by just 1 degree, you end up somewhere completely different. And so
Hmm.
it feels like that's very similar to the method is it's a small shift with big results, right? That they get to see. So I love that.
Exactly. Yeah. Once you can nail in the identity, it makes then the training and exercise, the sleep stuff so much easier to implement. I think in my space, especially, and probably happens in your space, people are gathering information. I think people have infobesity nowadays because they're so busy, like gathering, oh, this new diet does this and this hormone, da, da, da. None of it matters unless you can implement it.
Right. Right.
But in order to implement it, you need to get the identity right first.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you touched on hormones. You brought up that word. And so I personally have helped clients get pregnant after years of infertility with the work that I do. And so I know that the thoughts that we think influence our hormones and our bodies in such a huge way. So there's a lot of information out there about hormones and how that impacts women's health. What's your take on that?
Hormones are definitely part of the picture. How you have to remember as well that hormones are generally messengers. So they're housed in one part of the body. They talk to one part of the body and say, do this or do not do this, etc. And they work with other hormones. And a term that comes up a lot is balancing hormones. It's a real that is the most genius bit of marketing ever, because actually no hormones are balanced. They always have opposites. So if one hormone's higher, the other one is lower. Blah 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 blah. Hormones are massively important. I recommend that all women look at hormone therapy as they get into perimenopause, etc., all of that stuff. However, if you are not well rested, if you are not calming your mind, if you are not nourished and hydrated, if you are not moving your body, your influence on your hormones drops dramatically.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you're not well slept, like I've seen clients, if what they'll come to me and go, Greg, I want to need to lose some weight, etc. My hormones are all off. Okay, cool. I look at what they're doing in their lives, and they sleep for like 4 hours a day.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, you don't need more exercise right now. We need to fix this bit, because hormonal repair, hormonal processes always happen overnight. Okay,
Right.
the magic happens when we're rested. So hormones are simply important. I used to work with some top endocrinologists and gynecologists, and they used to refer patients to me. Like, Greg, I can't get this client to lose weight. They've done all the treatments, but all the things in range. And I'd be like, yeah, it's an implementation or a mindset issue. It's not, they're not physically a problem anymore. It's what's going on in their brains and what happens in what I call their health architecture. What happens at home,
Right.
happens at work. If we can fix the architecture and the identity, I reckon everything will fall into place.
Right. Well, the interesting thing that you just said is that you look at their sleep and they're sleeping like 4 hours. And I feel like that ties back into the identity of I don't have time and I don't deserve it. Right. So, because women are typically, doing a million things. And so then, especially like maybe if they have children or something, they're staying up later than to kind of fit more things in or kind of all of that. And so that ties back into that. It's like sleep is like a luxury, right? Rather than a necessity.
I'll sleep when I'm dead. Here's something that will make you laugh. I had a client who would always be like, Greg, I can't get to sleep because the kids won't go to sleep. So I said, okay, great. What's your favorite program? And they said something like Dallas or Dynasty or something. Do you remember those programs? J.R. Ewing and all that stuff. Anyway, I said, what time do those programs come on? And they were like, oh, about 10 o'clock. I said, well, think about it this way. Your kids see you as a superhero,
Mm,
but they see the superhero not go to bed when they go to bed.
mm.
So what happens is we've been raising generations of people who look at their parents staying up late and think that that is adulthood.
Right.
So I said, right, here's what you can do for next week. Turn off all the Wi-Fi. Everyone goes to bed at 9 o'clock. Oh my God, I can't do that. I said, if you want your kids to sleep, you have to role model the way.
Right. Right.
2 weeks later, everyone goes to sleep at about 9:30. They found a happy compromise in the house. Greg, I feel amazing.
Wow.
I'm missing my program. Okay, great. Schedule some time in your day that you can do that. You're an entrepreneur, you can schedule your own time. Watch it on a Friday afternoon as part of your downtime. Maybe cancel clients that day. No more clients on a Friday. Give that yourself as a refresh day or whatever. How's that sound? Okay. So my job really is to find these little, like you said, it's the small hinges that turn big doors, right? It's where can I find these little things that clients might think are small, but are easy to implement, that will have a massive effect. Another one is, for a lot of women, get a meal prep service.
Oh, yeah. Changed my life.
I'm like, you can afford it, but in your head, you've got the stories going back to your ancestors that you must slave around the pot and provide every dinner. Get your husband to cook or your partner. Teach the children how to cook. Growing up in a Jamaican household, I knew how to season chicken. I used to wash my clothes by hands at some point when I was about 4. We learned how to do all of these things so my mum and dad knew that if they were late from work, they'd ring the house and say, "There's chicken in the fridge, put it on for your sisters." Great. Make some rice, done. But we don't allow kids to explore those life skills. But then what happens? All the burden comes back on the parent. And actually, the way I see it, I love big cats. If you watch Big Cats in the Wild, they teach their kids, their young, how to hunt,
Right.
so that then eventually they can go get out. You're an adult now, off you go. Teaching them these skills helps take some of the pressure off mum and dad.
Right.
Yeah, but also gives them the skills. But again, that comes back to identity that as a parent, my job is to impart knowledge and skills. You know what that means? To do stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe we grew up similarly in that my mom was a single mom. She was a working mom. So I always helped with meal prep. That was just a part of my regular routine was helping with meal
Yeah,
prep. And
yeah.
I will say at some point in my life, I can't remember exactly when it's been, that's how long it's been. I decided like Green Chef is my best friend. I don't know how I lived my life without Green Chef because it's so delicious. It's all there for you. And it makes a huge difference in terms of my mental load, the emotional load, the what's for dinner, the grocery shopping, all of that. Plus Instacart. I don't have to go to the grocery store. I can't remember the last time that I actually went to the grocery store. I don't have the capacity, honestly, for that because of the business that I'm running. And also just because in my downtime, I don't wanna have to be contending with everybody else at the grocery store or all of these different things. So 100% agree with you on all of that.
And if you can, get a cleaner. Like, often I find there are like 3 easy big wins that we can just outsource stuff. The resistance for people doing it is, "Oh, I should be doing that."
Right.
No. Part of my job is to make sure you show up as in your genius in your career.
Right.
Like your health and fitness and all that stuff is part of the foundational stuff. But for you to flourish, my clients come to me, "Greg, I've made more money this year." And that's thanks to you. And I'm not a career coach or a business coach, none of that. But because I realized that health touches all of these other things, they all interlock. You can't separate the body and the brain.
Right.
It's just not. And that's why I think a lot of my clients work with me and they work with me for a long time because I'm not just looking at what did you eat yesterday. I'm like, how was your week? How did you manage your energy? What are the things that stressed you out? Why did they stress you out? What's the story behind all of that? How could you fix that for the next time? And that means you don't go for a bottle of wine on the way home the next time.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So the foundation of the $1,000,000 body method is the identity piece. And then you build from there diet, exercise, managing
Sleep,
sleep.
stress,
Right.
recovery, stress, everything. Yeah.
Right. And so that's what really but the identity piece is what really makes it different than other programs out there because you are very dialed in. Like I can tell that you know your stuff around the identity piece of things. And that to me feels very different than other things I've seen around health and weight loss. Right.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, you have to understand all the tactical stuff, how many calories you're taking in, which nutrients you're taking in, when you're taking them, how to train properly. All of that is massively important,
Right.
but it pales in significance if the identity is not dialed in, if you don't have what I call your health architecture, i.e., how does the structure of your life allow you to look after your health? If you're always working late, well, that's going to have an impact downstream. So what is happening in your day that we can go, why are you working late all the time? Then allows you to go to the gym or allows you to get home on time so you can have a good meal and have separation of work and rest, because that's a massive one. People just go work straight into rest, but there's no buffer.
Right.
There's no downtime. There's no, it's, I call it Dr. Quiet time.
I like
It's a
this.
time where we have pleasure, we have rest, our brain can come down off the cortisol, dopamine roller coaster of day job
Right.
to a place where you can get into bed and feel rested rather than get into bed, a million thoughts are going around. You haven't actually shut off from work. You then get an email from your CEO, all of that stuff. So, like for example, for me, the bedroom should only be for two things and they begin with S.
Right.
If that's not happening and you're up watching TV, scrolling your phone, then that's going to have an impact downstream. And a classic one for women is when they wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to the loo. That's a biological issue generally, but it can also be you haven't downloaded your brain.
Right. Right.
So in your sleep cycle, your brain's gone, oh, I'm awake. I've got this thing that you need to think about tomorrow morning.
Right.
Let me get up. And then you can't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Two angles. There's one is how did you eat before you went to bed so you can stabilize your blood sugar? But how did you download your brain to allow you to get into a state of rest?
Right. Right. Well, I have to tell you, I personally feel because we're so aligned with the identity piece of things and the stories that we tell ourselves, I feel challenged in a good way by some of the stuff, like thinking of my own habits and patterns. I feel challenged in a good way by some of the things that you have shared already. So I love your perspective on all of this. So I want to ask you, when we start to shift our stories, we can get triggered, potentially find ourselves backsliding into old stories. I'm sure that you see that a lot with your clients. So when you see that happening either with your clients or with yourself, what do you do to get yourself back on track?
So there's a couple of things I will do is find quiet. So when I'm triggered, I'll try to find quiet, even if it's I get a text and I'm in the middle of the post office. I'm like, right, okay, how can I work on my breath work at that point? The breath allows you to calm your mind. One of the great things about Chinese martial arts is we're taught how to regulate the breath and the brain together. So that helps definitely. Two, I ask myself the question is, have I reacted in the manner of the person I want to be? And then it becomes a yes or no.
Right.
And then when there's time, I'll maybe go and journal on it and say, right, what was it was that triggered? What allowed me to backslide? What have I been doing? Generally, I'll find the root cause very quickly because I've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
With clients, for me, it's giving them space to be open and vulnerable. That's massively important for me. I think in the fitness health world, people are scared to be wrong. I want my clients to tell me all the wrong things.
Right.
So they feel safe that actually these things didn't go so well. Okay, great. How can we improve them? Can we find a win this week because of that? Okay, you didn't work out this week because you've been traveling to 4 different hotels. Great. Where did we win? And the next time, how can we make a plan that makes sure you do get some movement in?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in anything when everything goes wrong, there's always a silver lining. And I think it's important for women to have space in my world to be able to just download and not worry about judgment, etc. Like, let's not judge yourself. Just tell. This is a really great point, and I won't talk too much more because you got me on a train of thought now. So one of the things I'll often work with clients is if you went to a judge and a jury, the thing that you said happened, would that stand up in a court of law? What do you mean? I'm like, well, you've given me a big story here, which is great, but tell me the facts of what happened. And then they'll think about it and they'll say, So what happens is, I think with stories, we trying to add our own bits. We'll over dramatize things, and things that even happen. Sometimes we put a little, because we want to add a bit of sauce, right? It's got to make us feel good. Yeah. Oh, that person was so bad that you shouted. Okay, cool. Take it back. Tell me the facts of what happened. Then you can start to remove the emotion and see what actually happened.
Right. Right.
And that's a massive one for people, is when you take the emotion out of it and just take it down to the facts, you often remove the trigger of what, and then you understand what really happened versus the story that was created around it.
100% agree. I always tell my clients, like, we need to let time for the emotions to pass so you can see it more clearly. Because as you said, people really get caught up in the emotion piece of things. And then it's like, once you're there and you're kicking it up over and over and over again, it's like you stay there for longer. And it's like, if you can clear the emotions, then you can start to see things more clearly. Right. And so I love that. And I think that also something you said, which is asking yourself a better question or a different question about the situation so that you can tell yourself a better story about what happened or the situation. Right.
It's all in the questions for me. I find 80 to 90% of my work is asking the right questions.
Right. Yeah. As any good.
Yeah, and then to come up with a solution, right? And often the client goes, "Oh yeah," and I haven't suggested. I'm just then and go, "Okay, let's go."
Right. Right. Well, I was going to say, as any good helper knows, that our clients have the answers within them. Our job is not always to have the exact solution, but it is to ask those questions so that they can start to tune into themselves and really formulate, for themselves solutions, right? So, yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
wonderful. All right. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I just want to ask you, any final words of wisdom or anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
Oh, so many things I could share, but I think the one thing is everything starts and ends with you, and you have the power to do more than you even realize if you give yourself the grace and time to allow that to happen. You are your own superhero. Simple as that.
I love that. And I really hope that everyone listening thinks about their own superhero identity because for me, that is so key. And I will never forget you asking that question about Superman and Clark Kent because obviously, same person, but the identity. And I just think that that's so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Um,
Pleasure.
yeah. So I know you have a free gift for our listeners. Do you want to share a bit more about that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things in the bank, but I'm gonna give your listeners a very simple 7-day meal guide, which is 20-minute recipe. So if you haven't outsourced your food by now after this conversation, there's like 20-minute recipes that you can make that all your family will love, you will enjoy, and just helps you really make dinner, lunch, whatever, really easy. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to record a little special something to help you make that even easier. Just a quick video, quick audio. I'll do that today. That will help people be able to implement it. So it's going to be on something I called cook once, eat thrice. So how to cook less and have more nourishing meals that are easy to do. So that's going to be it. So 7-day meal guide and how to cook once and eat more. So yeah,
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's so generous of you to share that. So really appreciate it.
my
All
pleasure.
right. So, and if you want to connect with Greg further and download the free gift, please check the show notes on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and I will link all of the information there. And again, just a huge thank you for being here with us today and for sharing so openly and so vulnerably and just so much of your wisdom. Conversations like this remind us that the stories that we grow up believing about ourselves, the world, or other people, they don't have to define who we become. So I'm sending you so much love and gratitude. Until next time. Bye.
Bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Shift Your Story, Change Your Life podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to send me a message on social media. I'm at the Ali Rose on both Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to be coached on a future episode or explore what it would look like to work with me one-on-one, head over to shiftyourstorypodcast.com. And if you never want to miss an episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review. It helps more people find this work. Until next time, keep shifting, keep growing, and most importantly, I want you to remember that your story isn't set in stone. You always have the power to shift it.